Time for another board game review, and this time we have the game Altiplano. This was sent to me by Renegade Game Studios and is designed by Rainer Stockhausen. Altiplano puts you in the South American highlands, where you must be creative to develop the available resources and vegetation of the high plateau between the eastern and western Andes. Learn to thrive by fishing in Lake Titicaca, mining ore, breeding alpacas, and trading goods. Build roads to speed up your development and store goods in your warehouse so that you are able to survive the difficult climate of this particular region. Let me show you how to play. So in Altiplano, you are drawing tiles from your bag, and then you're planning, doing actions, and trying to add more tiles to your bag in a sort of bag building game. The game ends when one of these locations here has been emptied of cards and tokens, or there are not enough extensions remaining in the extension strip over here. Whoever has the most points at the end of the game will win. Now, each player starts with a roll. You can either deal these out randomly, or you can draft them if you want. So for example, this gives you a special action you can do. This person can convert food to money. And so they start, and each character starts with different things. So this person starts with 2 food, a wood, a fish, and a money. At the beginning of your turn, you draw tiles from your bag. But before you do that, if you have any tiles on your board here from a previous turn, you are allowed to put them back onto unoccupied planning spaces. These planning spaces down here are where you put your tiles that you're going to use for the turn. Then you reach into your bag and you draw 4 tiles. You can draw more tiles later on, but in the beginning of the game, you can only draw 4. So here are 4, and you place them in the 1 through 4 slots. If you ever run out of tiles in your bag, you take your handy dandy box, and if there are any tokens in here, you put them into your bag. Think of this box as like your discard pile. Then everyone simultaneously looks at their boards and uses the tiles they drew to plan actions. So I could be like, okay, I'm going to put a fish and a food here, and I guess that for now. And I could also, if I wanted, I could put, let's say, 1 here, even if I don't trigger it. And if I'm this player, I could put 1 here. Let's say I decided to not place this wood token. I could keep it here, but that means on my next turn, I would only be able to draw 3 tiles, up to 4. Once you're done placing your tiles, everyone declares that they're finished, and then you start going into the action phase. So beginning with the start player, each player takes 1 action. So on the very first turn of the game, you can decide where you start on the board. So let's say I start on the fishing spot. And I do my first action, which is I'm going to spend a fish and a food to get a food. What I would then do is I take those tokens, put them into my box, and then I earn a food, which then goes immediately into my box. These will get put into your bag later when you run out of tokens. You can also move your pawn by using carts. Your first cart is just a free cart, so I can use this to move 1 to 3 spaces. On my next turn, I'm gonna move, let's go 1, 2, 3, like that. Because you need to be in the corresponding location if you want to do certain actions. So then I could do, okay, I'm going to spend the food, put it in my box, and then I'll earn a coin. Coins don't go into your box. They go separately. Once you're done with actions for the round, you pass, and everybody keeps going around doing actions until everyone has passed. Now, let's go over some of these actions. A lot of them are pretty straightforward. Like these ones, for example, you just place an alpaca here, you spend it, you get a food. You can get wool and cloth that way. So a lot of these are just putting materials down and then getting a new material. And you put all the materials used and gained into the box when you get them. This action is the road building. If you put a wood and a stone down, and you're on this tile over here, you can move your cube down a notch on that track. And as you can see, that says 5. So now, whenever you draw tiles on your beginning of your next turn, you can draw 5 tiles instead. You also earn corn tiles as you go along. I'll go into a little bit what corn does, but these go immediately into your storage in your warehouse in an available row. We'll get into storing goods later. But yeah, that's the primary use of this track, is either getting corn, but more importantly, getting that space in your for your planning. Another action you can do is spend a coin to get a new cart. Carts are very handy because you need those for movement around the board. So if I go onto this space here and spend a coin, I can get another cart. The cart goes onto your board. Now, the first cart you can always use for free. Oh, your second and onward carts, you gotta place a food token here if you wanna use them. If you do, you can then move your pawn 1 to 3 spaces. If you don't have enough carts or run out of carts and you use them and still wanna move, then you have to spend 1 food per movement. So if you spend 1 food, you can move 1 tile over, but that's it. Another action you can do is storing goods. I'll get into the details of that later, but if you put, let's say, 2 stone here, or these aren't stone, but ore or whatever, and you decide I want to store them, they would go into your warehouse. So I could put them here and fill a row. I'll go into the details of that later. Another action you can do on this space is you spend 2 stone and you can build a house. So you discard those and then you draw, or actually you don't draw, you look through the house cards. What the houses do is they give you 4 points at the end of the game, and they'll give you a bonus for whatever tokens you collect. So let's say I get this one, which means at the end of the game, I'll get +1 point for every wood token in my collection. So I take that, I built the house, I score it. Similarly, there's the fishing action. If you spend 2 wood, you can build a boat. So boats are a little bit different. They give you 2 points each. When you build them, you immediately get whatever token is on the card. So if you're like, ooh, I really need a cloth, I could grab this boat, get 2 points, and I'll get a cloth immediately. And then there's the market. You can sell goods, depending on their value here. So like alpacas and wool are worth 1 coin and so on. Cloth and silver are worth 2 more coins. If a good is not on here, you cannot sell it. You can also spend money to get extensions. Extensions are special actions that cost whatever is on here. So let's say for this one, if you look on the top left, it says 2 coins, and right now it's next to the 2 coins, so this would be 4 coins. If I spend 4 coins, I get this special action, which I can spend 2 coins to get a cocoa. As you'll note, it's still marked by a specific location, so you still have to go to that location to do it, but it's an action that is unique to you. You can also acquire orders. Orders are on this tile over here, and these require you to collect certain types of goods. So for this one, I need 2 wood and a silver. And one of the other actions on here is to fulfill an order. So if I put the goods on this space and put them on here, boop, 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 and fill it, I get 12 points and I get an instant corn. Now, once goods are placed on the cards, you can no longer use them and they no longer are in your collection. But there's still a good way to get a bunch of points. You can also only get one of these at a time. You can't have 2 unfulfilled orders or more. And like I said, the rest of the actions are pretty straightforward. Just put the tokens down, get the thing. And you always put those in your box. Now, once everyone has passed, you pass the alpaca start marker, which is honestly a little clumsily built. It keeps falling apart. You pass it to the next player. Everybody then resets their carts, and then if somebody bought one of these, you scoot these down. If nobody bought one, you discard the bottom one and move them down. Then you just draw tiles again and start another round. Now let's get into storage. I mentioned you could store goods in your warehouse. The only thing you can't store is food, and you have to fill these from bottom to top. So you fill from bottom to top, left to right. Only 1 goods type per row, except corn. Corn can be used as a substitute. Also, only 1 incomplete row per goods type. So let's say I had an incomplete row of ore here. I couldn't start a new row of ore until I finished this row. Corn, when you get it, must be stored immediately. It can be a substitute, so if I needed a space here, I could slide the corn in there. And corn rows also take priority. If you have a row that's only corn, then you have to store corn there until the row is completed. At the end of the game, you will score points for every completed row in your warehouse, and the points are depicted there. Like I said, that end of the game is determined if one of these 7 locations is emptied of cards and tokens, or if you run out of extensions and cannot refill the extension strip. Then, what you do is you score all the goods in your collection, and you use this kind of handy little guide here. So as you can see, glass is really valuable. Cloth and silver are pretty valuable. These aren't really worth anything, but yeah. The more valuable goods you have, the more points you'll earn. And then you'll add up your boats and your houses, like I mentioned with the bonuses, and also any fulfilled orders you did. Now, there is a variant of the game, which I actually encourage you to do because I think it makes it more interesting, with missions. In missions, there are mission cards here. Each one of you gets 3 cards. You pick one to keep, and then you pass the others, one to your left and one to your right to the other players. All these missions, they basically just simply, if you fulfill the thing, you get the points. So here's some examples here. This one simply, be the first person to build a house. If you do, you reveal it, get 8 points. This one, build 3 houses, you get 6 points. This one, fulfill 2 orders involving wool or cloth, you get 9 points. So, yeah, you draft those out and you're just trying to fulfill them for points. And that's just another extension of the game you can add if you want, which I encourage. I think it makes the game more interesting. But otherwise, that's pretty much it. You just add stuff to your box. When you run out of stuff in your bag, you put the tiles back in, mix them up, and then you draw more tiles in the future rounds and do more actions with them. And you're constantly collecting more tiles and adding them to your bag and trying to score points. And that's pretty much the game. So I enjoy bag building games and deck building games a lot, and this one is a solid one. The theme is pretty dry, but I do enjoy the combination of bag building and using those pieces for action activation. Having the actions also require your pawn to be on the correct space adds not only variety, since it's randomized each time the board, actually, I didn't mention that in the setup, but it also adds an extra level of strategy you have to conduct, since you need enough food to move the spaces you need to go. I do love that you can place your tokens on action spaces, but you don't have to activate them that round. Being able to leave those tokens there can really maximize future turns and let you draw the tokens you need faster. It's a cool change from other bag or deck building games. I recommend playing with the objective cards, like I said, because it'll give you more variety in your games. One minor downside to the game is that either after you complete your objective cards or without those cards, sometimes you can find yourself in sort of like repetitive loops because you know these couple actions are the best ones you should take, so you kind of just take them over and over again. But, you know, that's just a minor thing. I would also warn that for people who aren't used to this genre, it can be a little unforgiving. With a deck of cards, I feel like it's somehow easier to keep a handle on what you have in it, but with a bag, it's a little more obtuse. And so if you send too much of your stuff to the warehouse, or all of your type of goods, or you don't buy enough of a type of good, there's a possibility, if you're not careful, that you'll screw yourself over. Again, it's a very minor thing, and it depends on the player. But the game can be hard to grasp for people who have never played this type of game before. Overall, though, if you are a fan of this type of game like I am, it's a very solid bag builder. I kind of wish I cared more about the theme, and I do feel like at times it can get a little samey, but the core gameplay is still very solid. It's got the satisfaction of deck building, and it's got some smart additions to that, like the movement system and the upgrades with the extensions that give you special actions that really make it sing. It's good stuff.